Okay, hello and welcome to today's video. Now before we get into the main discussion, I'm going to need to lay some groundworks. So on the 5th of September, Nintendo created a new patent for some bendy Joy-Cons. If you scroll real far down on the patent, you can see an image of a Switch with these bendy Joy-Cons attached. Now if you look really closely at this image, you can see a game on the screen. The guy here is holding a sword, so this is clearly Link, cannot be anyone else, and therefore must be the sequel to Breath of the Wild. No other Zelda games exist right now. With that said, today's video we're going to be analysing this image to try and find out more information on Breath of the Wild 2. Okay, no, I'm not that desperate for content that I'm going to overanalyse a bare-bones sketch of a guy with a sword. However, we'll still be talking about Breath of the Wild 2 today. More specifically, what time period within Hyrule this game could take place in, and how feasible it could be. Right, so I'm going to be looking at 3 time frames here, and discussing what I personally think of each one and how it could work. The 3 time periods will be the past, the present, and the future. Okay, so when saying the past, I mean that the game takes place before the events of Breath of the Wild. This would most likely either work with Link and Zelda travelling back in time, or maybe even if this is just an older Link and Zelda from a different game, and Nintendo are simply reusing the models. Nintendo Black Crisis has a good video talking about time travel for a game, so I'll link that down below if you want to go watch it. I'd recommend it. Anyway though, I personally think the idea of time travel in the game could work pretty damn well, as it'd explain a lot of the stuff we've seen in the trailer. We've seen it as a mechanic in Zelda games before, such as Skyward Sword or Ocarina of Time. In fact, speaking of those games, they deal with time travel a bit differently to just flat out going backwards in time. They also allow you to return, and have actions in the past impact the future. This could work very nicely with Breath of the Wild 2, as it'd basically double the size of the game, with a past and a present world each. It would also be pretty feasible since they already have the present world, it's just the overworld from Breath of the Wild. They'd only need to make a small few changes and it'd be done. In terms of a past world, they could just get Breath of the Wild's overworld and modify it to be more like the past. For example, removing Sheikah technology, or even adding some non-ruined Zonai structures. However, despite this, it could still be a bit complicated on the development side, due to having past actions affecting the future. I don't find this to be too much out of the picture, especially since they've already been working on the game for a year and a half, and will probably be working on it for many more years, but well, it's still worth considering that it could add on to development time quite a bit. Heading back to the original time travel idea though, of just the whole game being out in the past and that's it. It would be a lot easier development wise, only needing one overworld and no actions from the past to the present, so I do think that'd be more likely. Both of which would be amazing to be honest. Anyway though, the past aside, let's look right at the present now. When I say the present, I mean picking up right after Breath of the Wild started. Most likely sometime around Link and Zelda repairing Ruta, or at least trying to anyway. Plot-wise, I can't really comment on much, other than the fact that following this ending, Link is guaranteed to have the Master Sword no matter what. You need the Master Sword to unlock one memory, and you need all the memories to unlock this ending, so he's gonna have the Master Sword when it ends like this, and that's just a guaranteed thing. This would feed very well into a sequel because we see Link with the Master Sword in the sequel's trailer, so matches perfectly. In terms of effort on the development side of things, this would no doubt be the easiest option, since very little about the world would have to be changed at all, allowing more time to be put into other options. However, I feel at the same time, also the least interesting of the options. Picking up right in the same world, same events, would not feel as new or interesting if you ask me. Compared to say, I don't know, travelling in time or leaving it several years into a future. Regardless though, this is a possibility that's definitely worth considering. Oh, and also, this could be used in conjunction with the time travel idea mentioned earlier, with the game picking up right after, and then Link and Zelda travel into the past. I feel this would be a better use of the concept, as it would make the final game less boring. Now, we have one last possibility to discuss. The future. This would take place several years into the future after events of Breath of the Wild, I don't know, like 5 or 10 years maybe. There would no doubt be plenty of stuff fixed and repaired, such as the castle, and civilization would be thriving. Now, speaking plot-wise, I can at first think of one major problem. Age. Link and Zelda would surely have aged by now, but don't appear to have in the trailer at all. The only real difference is the Hylian hoods and Zelda having short hair. However, I also quickly thought of a debunk for this. Link and Zelda have already aged over 100 years, without showing any sign of it at all, so what's to say that's not gonna just continue onwards, you know? Now they're 120 or 30, and they still look the same. Could easily have happened. In fact, on that note, this future thing could be hundreds of years into a future, although I place this as less likely because there wouldn't really be anything to continue on making it a sequel. It would just be people from one game in a new place, you know, so I'm still sticking with 5 or 10 years into the future. In terms of all the facts that support this plot-wise, there is the example of the fact that all the Sheikah stuff is gone in the trailer. Ruta wasn't working at the end of Breath of the Wild, so by now maybe they just gave up trying to fix Ruta and just decided, oh, let's bury them all again instead. However, then again, the lack of Divine Beasts could also be explained by the time travel option with them just not existing yet, so I feel that it's a null point in general because it could be applied to both, but it's still worth putting this out there though, regardless. In terms of development time though, this would probably be the best out of all the options for the developers. They wouldn't just be leaving the world as it is, so it'd still be a new world, but at the same time, a lot would be similar since there would have only been a time gap of 5 or 10 years, so it wouldn't be as bad on the developers. Say for example in the past, you might have entire cities which are just there now, however in the future you might have some settlements have expanded from Breath of the Wild, or Hyrule Castletown's been rebuilt but not that well, you know? It wouldn't be as much stuff to do. I personally feel that the most engaging of the possible worlds that could happen would be in the past. However, I also feel that the future would be slightly more likely due to, as I said, it would be easier to make. There's nothing much else to say due to a game being in the future, since, well, due to it being in the future we have like no knowledge to base speculation off at all, other than how Breath of the Wild ended. At the same time, I feel this is also a positive point for the game. The developers placed Breath of the Wild thousands of years into the future for a reason, and it wasn't plot-wise. It was to allow them to build a game without restraints from a timeline or plot of the other games. Placing the sequel 5 or 10 years into the future would still allow it to be a sequel, but still also let them do whatever they want with the game, since there's basically nothing to base it off. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Sorry if the editing came off as a bit low quality. As with last week, I've been a bit busy recently. However, next week's video should be good at editing quality again, so look forward to that. Regardless though, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, consider leaving a like or subscribing, and I'll see you all later. Bye!